Next thing I want to talk about, a little drama brewing in the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. Maybe we're making too much of this, but I think everybody's making a lot of this at this point. George Pickens caught, I believe, one pass last night, two passes for -1 yards. Not great. I have him in fantasy football. Super not great. Had an opportunity at a touchdown. Didn't drag the foot on a play that, I mean, very unlike George Pickens at this point. But at the end of the game, there was some frustrations. I read tweets. I wasn't watching the broadcast that they showed like Deontay Johnson trying to calm him down at one point. He looked miserable every single time the camera went over to him, even after the touchdown to Deontay Johnson, who caught his first touchdown in 668 days. As a teammate, you should be pretty hyped about that one. I get it. 2 back-to-back really poor performances for this guy. Is there a concern for you? Is there a growing concern? Is there any worry on your end at all that there could be some drama or a situation brewing for George Pickens?
I mean, a little bit, and just only because I don't really know what George is upset about. I mean, this is a guy who has accounted for like a third of the team's receiving yards, about half of their receiving touchdowns, and a little bit under a quarter of their total targets. Like, this guy's getting fed.
Yeah.
I mean, he's getting his fair share of targets, and he's getting what you'd expect. I'm willing to call him a number one receiver at this point. He's getting what a number one receiver should. And so I just don't really know what he's mad at. Like, okay, yeah, you had a bad game. It just didn't work out, but the passing game wasn't really working for anyone. Does he think he's the only one who's frustrated? Does he think he's the only one who's maybe missing out on some production because of the struggles of the offense as a whole? Like, everyone's going through it, man. But you gotta, like, I get it. It sucks, but you got to keep your head up a little bit. You got to like power through it. You got to fight a little bit, and you got to be able to compartmentalize and like say that, one drive, one game that doesn't affect what you can do moving forward, and that this stuff is just like going to happen during his career. Like, it's going to.
Yes.
Sorry, you're going to have bad games. You're going to have games where you don't get a ton of targets, and I don't know. It's also harder to be really forgiving of a guy getting super frustrated like this when, like you said, he didn't drag his foot. Like, he could have had a touchdown and just didn't drag his foot. And like, don't want to pretend like I could do anything that George Pickens does, but man, he had a lot of room to get that second foot in. Like, he had a lot of room. That's a play that he not only has to make, but that you expect him to make pretty easily most of the time. So just, I think you lose a little bit of the right to get real angry, real publicly at, everyone else and to sulk on the sidelines if you're not making every play that you possibly can.
Yeah, I agree. And I think there's a part of it that maybe he's just upset with himself.
Yeah.
He did not speak after the game. He was like, I don't know if he was in the shower or what, but I was in the locker room for a half hour. I didn't see him I didn't even see I didn't see a jersey. I didn't see cleats taken off, nothing. So he avoided everybody. And I always think that's a little telling of just like, hey, look at, I don't want to take the risk of this getting any bigger than it is. I think he acknowledges that, which I think is a good thing. Like, I'd rather a player do that than go, like last week, Deontay's freaking out on the refs. And in my head, I mean, everybody saw Mark Kaboli's face, but in my head, I'm sitting there listening and going, oh my gosh, man, stop talking, dude. You're going to get fined. Yeah. This is so much worse. Just, go complain to Mike Tomlin or somebody. Like, I get it. I understand you. I feel like sometimes you just have to avoid the media. And I think that was a good move by George Pickens. But not knowing where that frustration lies is worrisome, because Deontay's out here having great games since his return. George is quieting down because he's getting more double teams. And like, that's the thing is when George is getting double teamed and Deontay's not on the field, you're still going to look for George because it's still George and he's going to beat those double teams. But when Deontay's on the field, Deontay's open. Like, why are you waiting for George to beat a double team when Deontay is fully capable of going for 100 yards and 10 catches? Like, that's just an expectation. He's a wide receiver one as well. And I think that's the thing is like, that's where it becomes concerning is how long is this going to go? Because teams are always going to double team George because I mean, like, I don't know what Deontay has on the year so far, but I mean, in this game, he averaged 12.9 catches or 12.9 yards per catch. George is at like over 14 or like close to 18 or some crazy number like that on the season, that's a guy that you're going to double team every single time because that's explosive plays. And look at if it turns into drama, very concerning. If it doesn't, cool. But just like you said, you had an opportunity at a touchdown. You didn't really celebrate afterwards. Fans are noticing it on Twitter that you are noticeably upset on the sideline. That is concerning. And you know, like Colin Dunlap in 93.7, the fan said it the day before the game. He said, you know, George has every right to have a meltdown if the offense struggles. I don't think he has every right to have a meltdown if it doesn't struggle. But just like Dunlap said, like he's a wide receiver. So that means if he's good, he's a diva. And that is always a little bit concerning because I think that's true. And, you know, I just don't want to see it get worse because I think George Pickens is super, super good.
Yeah. And I think we've like talked about this before, but like there's a difference between getting upset or getting angry in a productive way where he's like, you know, fired up and like, you know, ready to work even harder to you know make sure that he gets his and that the offense keeps moving. But this didn't like seem like that. This seems like a little bit of sulking, like I said. Like the fact that you don't like celebrate a landmark moment with Deontay like that, like that's I don't know, that's a huge moment for Deontay, and you should be like happy for your teammates. I don't know, like not understanding everything that goes on in that locker room and their relationship, like that seemed a little, you know, that was just not George's finest hour, you know, and he has every right to get mad about things, but don't make it like unproductive or don't do it to the, you know, the detriment of other guys in the team, you know?
Yes. I mean, and you got to look at like Pat Fryermuth's caught like a pass all season in the games that he's been in. Connor Hayward's done almost nothing. Allen Robinson's done very little. Like these guys, sometimes you just got to chill and wait your turn and it'll come. And that's what George has to do.